It must be Monday. Well, I've missed you all. I hope you caught up with me last week and you heard my story. Yes, it was about Rumplestiltskin. What a funny name. I love funny names. Well, that was only part one. This week is part two. How super exciting. Did you hear the first part? If not, you can go and watch it now. But if you have, well, then get ready for part two. Just a quick recap, okay? So last time, we found out there was a miller's daughter, and she was taken to the palace of this horrible old king. And when she got there, the king told her that she had to turn, not one, not two, but 3 rooms of straw into gold. Can you imagine that? Oh my goodness, she didn't know how she was going to do it. She was crying and she asked for help, and this little imp just arrived out of thin air. And he said, I will help you. But not before he took her necklace, her mother's ring, and on the 3rd night, that's right, 3 times she had to do this, he said, I'll just get to work. And he didn't even tell her what he wanted. And the next morning, he told her he was going to come back one day when she was the queen and steal her baby. She couldn't believe this was happening, but she was also not worried because she would never become queen. What a joke. Except, of course, that night, the king's son arrived back at the palace, and he was a handsome, lovely prince, a super nice guy. And they kind of fell in love, and they got married. And guess what? They had a baby. And that's where we ended last time. We were really worried about what was going to happen. But let's get back to the story. What are we waiting for? Let's go for it. So it was a quiet afternoon at the palace. And it was a little bit hot inside. So the queen decided she would go outside with her new beautiful baby. And they were outside. And the birds were tweeting. And the grass was so green. And the sun was perfect. And she looked around at her life, at the palace, at her beautiful husband who was upstairs. And she looked into the eyes of a beautiful baby, and she said out into the universe, I am so lucky. I'm the luckiest girl alive. What more could I possibly want? And just then at that moment, poof, a little puff of smoke. And there, standing in front of her, doing his little impy dance, was the horrible imp. Oh no, she said. Oh yes, he said, I'm back. And now it's time for you to hand over your baby. I told you I was going to ask you for payback. No. Please don't take my baby, she said. This baby is everything to me. Well, a deal is a deal, but give me a chance, please. There must be some way. No, there's no way, said the imp. But then the queen started to get desperate, and she said, what about all the gold in the palace? You can have all of it. Ha! I'm an imp. What do I need gold for? I can make my own. What about the palace? You can have the whole palace. I don't want a palace, said the imp. I'm an imp. I like to come and go as I please. What about servants? You can have all of the servants. What do I need servants for? I'm my own person. Besides, nobody knows who I am. Oh, but what? Said the queen. I'll tell you what, Queenie, said the imp. Because I like you, I will give you 3 days to figure out my name. And if you can figure it out after 3 days, then you can keep your baby. But if you can't, then that baby will be mine. Anyway, she also told her that she was not allowed to tell anybody about him or the deal or anything. Otherwise, he would just take the baby. So she had to keep all this to herself. But she had 3 days. Okay, she said, I will guess your name. And just as she said that, poof, he was gone. Now the queen had some work to do. So she went to the palace library. The palace library was the biggest library you've ever seen in your whole life. Books for miles. And she went to the middle of the library, which is the big section, and there was just a section of names. And she started to pick out all the books and write down all the names of all the boys' names she could think of. I'm pretty sure some of your names were on the list that she had found. And the next night at 4:30-ish, poof, in a puff of smoke, the little imp arrived. And he said, "Okay, Queenie, what is my name?" And she started to speak all the names on her list. She said, "Is your name Nathan? Hugo? James? Andrew? Mike? Mark? Martin? No? Timbani? Sipo? Is your name Petrus? Meteor? Is your name Arnold? Archie?" Anyway, this went on for a very, very long time. Maybe about 3 hours. It's very long to think of names. But every time she said a name, he said no. Anyway, it was getting late. They were both tired, so the imp said, "Tomorrow night I'll be back at 4:30, and poof, he was gone. Well, the queen was racking her brains. She had to think of something, so she called all the servants and she said, "Go out and find all the weird and wonderful names you can possibly think of. Think of names from all the different countries. Think of Spanish, Italian, Greek, French, African, American, English, European, Eskimo names. Please come back with all the names you can think of." And I'm pretty sure your name was there. Anyway, 4:30 came. The next day, poof, he arrived. "So, Queenie, what is my name?" And she started to say some of the stranger names that she had found. "Is your name Pompeldeer?" "Pompeldeer? Is your name Point Dexter?" "No." "Is your name Gunner?" "No." "Alfonso?" "No." "Dimitri?" "No." "Sylvius?" "No." "Hercules?" "No." Anyway, she just kept saying all these weird and wonderful names, and every time he just said no. Well, this went on for a few hours, and then it got late. And he said, "Tomorrow is the last day, Queenie. I'm coming, and if you don't guess my name, that baby is going to be mine." And poof, he disappeared. Well, the queen couldn't sleep that night. She stayed up all night trying to think of names, tossing and turning and getting up and scribbling names down. Her husband thought she was behaving very strangely, but she couldn't tell him anything. She had to keep it a secret. Anyway, the next morning she woke up. Oh, she was so super tired. And she thought, "I have got to find out what his name is." The only way she could think of what to do is to go for a long walk, because whenever she went for walks, it cleared her mind, and she thought that's going to work. So she put on her little cape and her little hood, and off she went walking in the forest. And when she was walking, she thought she heard some very strange noises coming from the distance. There between the trees, she could hear some beats. They were quite cool beats. She started getting closer, and they started getting louder. And when she looked through some trees, there, dancing around the fire, was the imp. And he looked pretty cool. He had like little glasses, he had his head turned sideways, he had a chain. And this is what he was saying. "Hey, hey. Tonight my evil plans I make. Tomorrow the baby I'll take. That queen will never win my game, because she'll never guess my name. And I'm not the loser, I always win. People can't guess my name is Rumplestiltskin. And I'm not a loser, I always win. People can't guess my name is Rumplestiltskin." And he dropped his little mic. Well, the queen was so super excited. She quickly ran as fast as she could all the way back to the palace. And she waited there for him Till 4:30, she was super excited, but she didn't want to give herself away, so she pretended to be really calm. And he arrived. Well, it's that time, Queenie. I'm sorry to say. Have you got my name? Oh, the Queen said, I've been thinking all day of the strangest names. I'm thinking, what could your name be? Could your name be Mutton Chops? Mutton Chops? Could your name be Stinky Shins? Stinky Shins? What a stupid name. Could it? No, it couldn't be. Could it be Rumplestiltskin? Rumplestiltskin! Said the little imp. Rumplestiltskin! Ah! And he got so angry that his little face went brighter and he stamped his little feet on the ground so hard that he made a big hole. And he just fell straight through it. And he disappeared and he was never, ever seen again. Goodbye, impy guy. Well, the Queen was so relieved and she hugged her baby tight to her chest. And she thought, this time I'm going to be okay. And happiness really is going to be mine. And her husband was happy and she was happy and everyone in the palace was happy and they had a big party. And you know what music they played at their party? Well, it was a very cool beats. I'm sure you've got some cool beats that you could play at home, right? Remember to dress up when you listen to your cool beats, right? Yes, you can put on your glasses and your chains and your caps and your hats or whatever it is you got. Now listen to me, everybody. I'm gonna see you next Monday, okay? So you better be there, okay? And I'm sure you've got a cool name too, so remember the song before we go one last time? Yes, we'll just sing the last 2 bits, right? Here we go. And I'm not a loser. I always win. No one can guess my name is Rumplestiltskin. Okay, well that's all we have time for today. I really hope you had a good time. See you next time. Toodaloo!